A divine voice broke the silence of my heart. It said, "Leave your homeland and your father's house and go to the land I will show you." This voice was not audible to the ears, but it was clearer and more powerful than the roar of any storm. The voice said, "I will make you into a great nation. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who curse you, and through you, all peoples on earth will be blessed." These were the words of the Lord that marked the beginning of my story. I am Abraham, born Abram, in Ur of the Chaldeans, in the prosperous city of Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers nourish the land. My father Terah was a respected man, but our lives were ordinary, marked by the seasons and rituals of a polytheistic society. The divine call was both an awakening and a rupture. "I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you will be a blessing." Genesis 12. How could someone like me, a mere mortal among many, be chosen for such a destiny? The promise was as overwhelming as the night sky under which I stood. At 75 years old, my amazing journey began when I chose to face my fears and start anew. I never imagined living to 178 or having such a wonderful family. Here starts my tale. Fueled by hope and strong belief, I followed the Lord's guidance with my wife Sarai, nephew Lot, and all our belongings and companions towards Canaan. Our path was guided by a divine promise, leading us through Haran to the promised land of Canaan, a place of lush hills and valleys inhabited by Canaanite people in fortified cities, each ruled by its own king. Life in Canaan differed greatly from Ur. Here, vast fields and vineyards stretched out, fragrant with olive groves and fig trees. Although the land was fertile and full of potential, it was already occupied by other cities and cultures. I journeyed to the sacred site of Shechem at the Oak of Moreh, which belonged to the Canaanites. It was there that the Lord appeared to me once more, renewing his promise. Moving to the mountainous region between Bethel and Ai, I made camp and built altars to the Lord in each place, expressing my faith and devotion. Despite the trials we faced, the once bountiful land that had welcomed me with divine favor soon turned harsh due to a severe famine. "Why have you brought us here?" I pondered, gazing at the heavens for guidance. Reluctantly, we made the decision to journey to Egypt, with its plentiful granaries along the Nile, despite the worry that it might challenge the Almighty's promise to protect my family. "Fear not, Abraham," the promise echoed. "I am your shield, your great reward." Genesis 15. Still, fearing for my safety due to Sarai's beauty, I devised a plan. Sheep, cows, donkeys, maidservants, and camels marked my stay in Egypt, which was characterized by the dissonance between the opulence of the palaces and the enslavement of many of its inhabitants. Yet the Lord inflicted great plagues on Pharaoh and his people because of Sarai. Pharaoh, realizing the truth, confronted me. "What have you done to me? Why didn't you tell me she was your wife? Why did you say she was your sister, allowing me to take her as my wife?" He ordered his men to escort us out of Egypt, along with Sarai and all our property. As we were expelled from Egypt, we not only returned to Canaan with more than we had carried, but also with a deeper understanding of the nature of our God, a protector, a provider, an infallible guide in times of uncertainty. Leaving Egypt, I journeyed to the Negev with my wife, all our belongings, and Lot beside us. Through God's grace, my wealth had grown significantly with livestock, silver, and gold. Heading back north, we reached Bethel, our initial camping spot between Bethel and Ai, where I had erected an altar to the Lord before. Lot, traveling with me, also possessed sheep, cattle, and tents. Our possessions had expanded so much that there wasn't ample room for both our herds, causing disputes between our herdsmen. This was amidst the presence of the Canaanites and Perizzites, adding to the tension. To prevent conflicts and maintain peace, I proposed a solution to Lot. "Let's avoid strife between us and our herdsmen. We're family. Survey the land ahead. If you go left, I'll go right. If you go right, I'll go left." Lot chose the fertile Jordan Valley, akin to the Lord's Garden or Egypt before Sodom and Gomorrah's ruin. Opting for the lower Jordan area, he moved eastward, parting ways with me. Lot settled near Sodom, known for its sinfulness and defiance against the Lord. After our separation, the Lord reaffirmed his covenant with me. "Look around you, for all the land you see will be yours and your descendants. Your offspring will be as countless as the earth's dust." Following his directive, I explored the land, acknowledging the divine promise bestowed upon me. Eventually, I relocated my camp near the oaks of Mamre and Hebron, where I built an altar, communing with the Lord, thankful for his guidance and assurances of blessings for me and my descendants. One day, the Lord came to me and appeared while I was sitting at the entrance of my tent in the oaks of Mamre during the hottest part of the day. When I looked up, I saw 3 men standing nearby. Without hesitation, I ran from the entrance of my tent toward them and bowed to the ground in a sign of respect and hospitality, saying, "My Lord, if I have found favor in your eyes, please do not pass your servant by. Stop and rest a while under this tree. Let me bring some water so you can wash your feet and rest under this tree. I will also bring a piece of bread so that you may refresh yourselves before you continue on your way, for you have come to your servant." For some reason they agreed, saying, "Do as you have said." Immediately, I went to the tent where Sarah was and urged her, "Quick, take 3 measures of the finest flour and knead it, and bake some bread." Then I ran to the herd, selected a choice, well-fed calf, and handed it over to a servant to prepare without delay. I served curds, milk, and the calf that had been prepared to our guests, who sat under the tree as they ate. When they asked about Sarah, my wife, I replied that she was in the tent. One of them, whose words carried the weight of divine promise, said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and by then Sarah will have had a son." Sarah, who was listening from the entrance of the tent, laughed to herself, disbelieving the idea of experiencing the joys of motherhood and fatherhood at our advanced age. The visitor, aware of Sarah's laughter, inquired, "Why did Sarah laugh, thinking, 'Can I really have a child now that I'm old? Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have given birth to a son." Frightened, Sarah denied laughing, but the Lord affirmed, "Yes, you did laugh." As the men left for Sodom, contemplating their purpose, I readied myself to bid them farewell. The Lord revealed his intentions to me, pondering whether to disclose the impending fate of Sodom and Gomorrah due to my role as the progenitor of a great and favored nation, tasked with imparting justice and righteousness to my descendants. Before the city's impending doom, I beseeched the Lord, advocating for the righteous in Sodom. "Will you destroy the innocent along with the guilty? If there are 50 righteous individuals, will you spare the city?" The Lord agreed to spare the city for the sake of 50 righteous people. Driven by my quest for justice, I persisted, lowering the threshold to just 10 righteous individuals to avert the city's destruction. Mercifully, the Lord pledged not to annihilate the city if even 10 righteous souls were found. As evening fell, 2 angels arrived in Sodom, finding my nephew Lot at the city gate. Upon seeing them, Lot respectfully approached, bowing before them. Urging the angels to lodge at his home instead of the city square, Lot insisted they rest, wash their feet, and resume their journey in the morning. Initially hesitant, the angels accepted Lot's hospitality and accompanied him home. There, Lot prepared a meal for his guests, offering unleavened bread. Before long, a mob of men from Sodom, young and old, encircled Lot's house, demanding to harm the strangers. Stepping outside, Lot implored them not to commit such an atrocious act, even offering his own daughters in a desperate attempt to protect his guests. Despite his pleas, the mob persisted, threatening Lot with greater harm. When they tried to force their way in, the angels intervened, rescuing Lot and blinding the assailants to safeguard the household. Afterward, the angels revealed to Lot the purpose of their visit, the imminent destruction of Sodom due to its great wickedness. They urged Lot to gather his family and leave the city. Lot tried to warn his sons-in-law, but they did not take him seriously. At dawn, before Lot could hesitate, the angels took him by the hand, along with his wife and daughters, and led them out of the city by the Lord's mercy. Once safe, the angels warned Lot to flee to the mountains without looking back. Lot, fearing he could not make it that far, asked for refuge in a nearby small town, Zoar. The angel agreed, allowing Lot and his family to take refuge there. When the sun rose and Lot reached Zoar, the Lord destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah with sulfur and fire from heaven. Lot's wife, disobeying the command not to look back, became a pillar of salt. The next morning, I returned to the place where I had stood before the Lord, watching in horror as the smoke of destruction rose from the ground. Although divine judgment had fallen on Sodom and Gomorrah, the Lord remembered his promise to me and spared Lot, a testament to divine justice and mercy amid judgment. The devastation of these cities was a somber reminder of the consequences of sin and the importance of obedience to God. From there, I moved to the region of the Negev, settling there. Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, took Sarah into his palace. That night, God intervened in a striking way. He appeared to Abimelech in a dream and warned him that he was about to make a grave mistake by taking Sarah as she was my wife. Abimelech, surprised and frightened by the dream, defended his innocence before God, claiming that he acted in good faith based on the information that both Sarah and I had provided. God, in his mercy, acknowledged his innocence and precisely for this reason intervened to prevent him from sinning against him. God ordered that Sarah be returned to me and added that I, being a prophet, would intercede for him so that Abimelech would not die. At dawn, Abimelech summoned his servants and told them what had happened, causing great fear among them. He then called me and with great distress asked why I had acted in such a way, exposing him to commit such a serious sin. In my defense, I explained that I believed there was no fear of God in Gerar and that I feared for my life because of my wife. I also revealed that by saying Sarah was my sister, I was not lying, as she was indeed my half-sister as well as my wife. I explained that Sarah and I had agreed to say this to protect ourselves. Abimelech, in a gesture of goodwill to repair the misunderstanding, returned Sarah to me and compensated us with sheep, cattle, and male and female servants. He also offered his lands for us to settle wherever we saw fit. Moreover, Abimelech gave Sarah 1,000 pieces of silver as a way to clear her honor. After this incident, God intervened for Abimelech, his family, and his servants, so that they could have children again, as God had closed the wombs of all the women in Abimelech's household because of Sarah. God heard my prayer and healed everyone in Abimelech's household, demonstrating once again his mercy. God visited Sarah and me in an amazing way, keeping his promise beyond what we ever expected. Sarah, despite her old age, became pregnant and gave birth to a son, as God had foretold. When our son arrived, I named him Isaac, as God had instructed. 8 days later, I circumcised Isaac, following God's guidance faithfully. This was when I was 100 years old, a clear sign of God's power and faithfulness. Sarah, filled with joy, said, "God has given me a reason to laugh, and everyone who hears will share in my joy." We never thought we would be blessed with a son in our old age. When Isaac was weaned, we celebrated with a big feast, marking a new beginning for our family. But not everything was cause for happiness. One day, Sarah saw Ishmael, the son Hagar had borne me, making fun of Isaac. This upset Sarah, leading her to ask me to send away Hagar and Ishmael so that Isaac wouldn't have to share his inheritance. This request troubled me deeply, as Ishmael was also my son. However, God stepped in, reassuring me not to worry about Ishmael and Hagar. He told me to do as Sarah had asked because it was through Isaac that my descendants would be counted. God also promised to make a great nation out of Ishmael, since he was my son too. Although it was hard, I trusted in God's promise and prepared Hagar and Ishmael for their journey, giving them supplies and saying goodbye at sunrise. God did not abandon Ishmael. When Hagar and the boy were in a desperate situation in the desert, God intervened, ensuring them a future and divine protection. Ishmael grew up in the wilderness, becoming a skilled archer, and his mother married him to an Egyptian woman. At that time, Abimelech and Phicol, the commander of his army, recognized God's blessing on my life and sought to secure a relationship of mutual loyalty with me. I swore to treat them with the same loyalty they had shown me. However, tensions arose over a well that Abimelech's servants had seized. Despite this conflict, we managed to come to an agreement and celebrated a covenant, sealed with the exchange of gifts and oaths in Beersheba, which means well of the oath. After these significant events in my life, one day, God decided to test me. He called out, "Abraham." I responded, "Here I am," always ready to listen to his voice. Then he gave me an instruction that would shake any father's heart. "Take your only son, Isaac, whom you love so much. Go to the region of Moriah and offer him as a burnt offering on the mountain I will show you." I cannot describe the storm of emotions that engulfed me at that moment. Yet, with unwavering faith in God, I rose early the next day, prepared my donkey, and set out with 2 of my servants and my beloved son Isaac. I cut the wood for the sacrifice, and we proceeded to the place God had indicated. On our 3rd day of travel, I saw our destination in the distance. I asked my servants to wait with the donkey while Isaac and I went ahead. "We'll go worship and come back to you," I promised them. Isaac carried the wood for the sacrifice, and I placed him on the altar. As I reached for the knife as God commanded, a voice from heaven called, "Abraham, Abraham." It was the angel of the Lord. I answered, "Here I am." The angel told me not to harm Isaac, proving my fear of God was real, as I hadn't held back my only son. I then saw a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. I offered it as a sacrifice instead of Isaac. That place was named "The Lord Will Provide," a reminder of God's faithfulness. The angel blessed me once more from heaven, and we returned to Beersheba. There, I continued to live, pondering the important lessons of faith and obedience that God had shown me on Mount Moriah. Sarah, my beloved wife, lived to be 127 years old. Her death in Kiriath Arba, now known as Hebron, in the land of Canaan, left me immersed in deep sorrow. I mourned for her and grieved, feeling the emptiness her departure left in my life. After withdrawing from the place of her death, I approached the sons of Heth. I was among them as a foreigner, owning no land of my own. I said to them, "Although I am a mere foreign resident among you, please grant me a plot of land to bury my wife." I wanted to purchase it at a fair price to establish a family tomb among them. Ephron, who was present at the meeting, generously offered both the field and the cave in front of all those present, saying, "I give it to you in the presence of my fellow citizens. Bury your wife." Thus the field of Ephron at Machpelah, along with the cave and all it contained, became my property, formally acquired before the community leaders. There I buried Sarah, marking the field of Machpelah, facing Mamre, as our family tomb. This acquisition before the sons of Heth ensured a resting place for my family for generations, a testimony to my life among them and my commitment to the land promised by God. After Sarah's death, my heart found comfort and companionship in Keturah, a woman I married. She blessed me with more children, Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua, thus expanding the family God had promised me. Jokshan, one of my sons, became the father of Sheba and Dedan, continuing the lineage that the Lord had promised, which would be as numerous as the stars in the sky. To Isaac, the son of promise I had with Sarah, I bequeathed all my possessions, fulfilling what God had established. I lived 175 years, a life full of challenges and blessings, marked by my relationship with God and my commitment to His commands. When my time came, I died in peace, satisfied with the life I had lived, and rejoined my ancestors, leaving behind a legacy of faith and obedience. My sons, Isaac and Ishmael, despite distances and differences, came together to bury me in the cave of Machpelah, the place I had acquired as a family tomb. I hope this story inspires future generations to trust in God and follow His ways, just as Abraham did.